dubious, to say the least, which to me, it seems to have a lot in common with some of Ford's other fantasy projects that he's been talking about lately. So, look, I'll just repeat again. This is a great deal for Therme, but it is not a great deal for Ontario. I can't think of anything that Ontarians want less, as I'm traveling all across Ontario, here in the GTA and all in every region. Nobody is saying, please, we need an Austrian luxury spa in downtown Toronto. That is not on the list of priorities of people, of real people. And I think, the government seems to have made a bad deal here for Ontario, and it's Ontarians who are going to pay the price. And with that, I'd like to allow my colleague, Chris Glover, MPP for Spadina-Fort York, who's the local MPP for the area, to say a few words as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Mart. So my name is Chris Glover. I'm the MPP for Spadina-Fort York, and I just came from Ontario Place, and I can tell you it's absolutely devastating what's happening down there. They're destroying those 850 trees on the West Island, and they've done it. They started in the dark, like all the things that this government does. All these corrupt things they do, they do them in the dark, and this is just an appalling example of destroying public parkland. And they're releasing the lease, and the question is, why would they release the lease today? I think in part because the NDP has filed the Freedom of Information request, which was initially denied, and now they've appealed it. But I think the real reason is that they want to distract attention from the destruction that's happening on the West Island at Ontario Place. That is public parkland that was paid for by the people of Ontario. And this government, their top line of, with the release apparently is that they're going to generate $2 billion from this deal. Well, Ford admitted on July 21st that the cost to taxpayers of this project at Ontario Place is $1.5 billion. So we're looking at 95 years before we get a return on investment. It's absolutely a terrible, terrible deal for the people of Ontario. And as Marit has said, we've got 230,000 people who are homeless. We've got a housing crisis, an affordable housing crisis. Our hospitals and schools are going bankrupt, and this government is going to spend $1.5 billion building this mega spa down at Ontario Place. It's absolutely shameful, a shameful waste of money and a shameful loss of public parkland that belongs to all of the people of Ontario. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks.
All right, you started off by saying they've released what appears to be the lease. Why phrase it that way? Do you have
I don't know.
reason to believe it's not?
I guess we've just been, maybe it's just my own cynicism about this government. I'm sure it's the real lease. I hope that they've given us all the information that they have, but they've hidden it for so long. I cannot understand why they were hiding it for over a year. As you know, we've all put in Freedom of Information requests. Chris has one underway. The only reason the government is finally coming through with anything and sharing any information about this is because they were forced to do it. They have been forced to do it. There is no transparency and accountability with this government. We have to fight tooth and nail as Ontarians for every little piece of information we get, when these are your dollars, Ontarians' dollars, that are being spent here.
A lot of questions in this briefing on the parking, but for some reason shut down any further questions on trees, weirdly. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I will let you know that the government, Infrastructure Ontario, didn't let MPPs or critics into the briefing. So you have more information than we do at this stage, though we will be, of course, asking the government lots of questions about this. I think that the government, if whatever they don't answer, you better believe there's a reason. Because they know that how deeply unpopular it is to remove those trees from that site. And I think it's outrageous that they won't share, again, that information with the people of Ontario. This isn't just any land. This is Ontarians' land. This is a public park. It belongs to the people of Ontario. It's quite unique in that respect.
Mart, if you win the election, will you kill this project?
Gosh, I will be looking at every which way we can. Absolutely. But I tell you, the fact that they're tearing down those trees, the fact that they're proceeding when Ontarians are so clearly opposed to this, I think is outrageous. Just like everything, Doug Ford goes in with a bulldozer, to try to make it as difficult as possible to undo these things. And I will say, isn't it interesting that right now we have a conservative government talking about undoing the selling off of the 407, something that we warned would be a mistake for Ontarians. years ago, and now they're having to undo that now. I mean, we are on the hook here for billions and a 95-year lease. That's outrageous. It's just, I feel, and we still believe that there is something more behind this. And I think, as our critic Jennifer French was highlighting with the government minister the other day, it really looks like there's been preferential treatment here as well in this whole process.
But do you know what it would cost to kill it?
I don't know yet, no. But we will be looking at that, and I can tell you, but this is the problem, right? They sign on to these things, and there's very little opportunity for us to get out of it. And Therma has 20 years, right? I have to check my notes on it, but yeah.
After 10 years, the clause
right.
I saw, the government could cancel it, but would have to pay, I think, a year of their profits and find them another place and build them another spa.
Yeah, I mean, once again, this is outrageous. We are locked in to this deal, and we don't get much benefit from it. I mean, where is the public benefit? We've seen it with other private partnerships as well that the government has. You look at the Finch LRT, it's just another example. We are buried. We have a government that is buried in lawsuits from private companies that they're in business with, right? And we don't see the results in the end. So I'm very concerned about the risk that the people of Ontario are taking on with this project.
So you say the $200 million that they say will go towards the public realm, the park around this thing, and $700 million in total, $500 million of it to build this attraction. That's not worth it?
Well, $700 million is the private luxury spa piece that you're going to have to pay, I would assume, an arm and a leg to get into.
Well, 200 is for public.
Yeah, well, I think at the end of the day, again, when you look at what the government is saying this is going to cost the taxpayer, we are assuming not only are we spending an extraordinary amount, and the deal seems to rely entirely, I don't trust their math, but it seems like it relies almost entirely on highly dubious projections of revenue from Therma, right? As I said, one of them, they'll have to be an extraordinarily successful business. And it's, as Chris pointed out, it's going to take us years and years to get back any of that. So I'm not sure I see the benefit, but I see a whole lot of risk for the people of Ontario. And it's not a risk that anyone asked for. This isn't building transit. This isn't building housing. This isn't going to help people who are trying to make ends meet when they end up at the grocery store. I mean, this doesn't help regular people in any way that I can see.
So, Mart, you obviously really hate this lease and really hate this deal. However, is there anything that you were hoping to see in this lease? Is there a detail that's missing? Is there something that you're seeing, a big blank in that you're still looking for answers on?
Well, as I pointed out, and maybe Chris might want to add something to this as well, but what I see missing in this whole, in what the government has shared up to now, is an explanation for how we ended up with 2,500 parking spots that the people of Ontario are paying for, when it looked like Therma had asked for 1,600, and it's not clear that any of the other bidders were given the same deal. So I think there's something, as I've said before, I think this is an insider deal, and we want to know exactly how this came about. We have a government that is under criminal investigation by the RCMP right now for some other deals that they've made. The people of Ontario will not forget that. Do you want to add anything?
I think, what Mart's been saying, they're talking about this, and it really feels like this is Ford's 407. Harris sold off the 407 for $3 billion for a 99-year lease. This is Ontario's most valuable public parkland in downtown Toronto. It's small forest in downtown Toronto with wildlife, and he's destroying this whole thing in a 95-year lease. And it looks like it's all on the taxpayer's dime. There's a little bit of money being invested by Therma, but most of their spas are being built in farmers' fields, not being built on the most valuable public parkland in any other country that they're building in.
Mart, there's a section in the lease here that talks about communications. I want to ask a question about it, but it requires me to read some of the lease.
Well, yeah, good, yeah.
So it says, the tenant, Therma, will work collaboratively with the province prior to initiating, planning, or launching any public communications with respect to the content and distribution of public communications made by the province or the tenant, including such public communications related to marketing, in order to ensure that there is awareness and alignment of approach. The landlord and the tenant will continue to work collaboratively to enable awareness, understanding, consistent messaging, and mutually beneficial outcomes. Wondering kind of what you make of that in a little bit of plain English.
Yeah, that stinks, right? It says, basically that this company is controlling all the communication around this project completely. I think it gives Therma, again, like an extraordinary amount of power behind a project like this that, again, is on public land, is subsidized immensely by taxpayer dollars.
I got another unrelated question.
Sure.
It's on the casino stuff that we reported a few days ago. So the Premier spoke yesterday to the government's negotiations with the company that operates the Niagara casinos, and how he'd like to see something different from the monopoly to allow for more opportunities in that space. And I'm wondering if the NDP would support more casinos in Niagara.
Well, look, I mean, the casino that's in the casinos already, provide good union jobs in the region. So we're interested in seeing the details, right? We want to understand exactly what the government is talking about, what Ford's talking about here. I mean, the last week we've seen him throw around all kinds of fantasy projects with virtually no details at all. And I think, the truth is, I think this is a government and a premier who've run out of gas, right? If he had wanted to do any of these fantasy projects, he could have done it 6 years ago when he was first elected, or sometime in the last 6 years. So, I mean, we'll see what he's actually proposing, and I'd like some more details on that, certainly. But at this point, he's not providing the kind of details we want. I mean, certainly, we support the creation of more good union jobs and opportunities for people in the region, but we'll have to see the details of what he's suggesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.